So, Ethereal Knives, Poison, Pathfinder is going to be my league starter, and I created an entire guide from level 1, covering leveling up to level 95. It is based on Rutus, Poison, EK, Pathfinder, like obviously it is. You can also check out other resources. I highly recommend you do that. Like, I believe Tripolar Bear made one, as a max roll article for that, or Rutus original POB, especially past 95, where this guide is going to stop. I basically changed everything I wanted to change, made it a little bit into my version of it, based on my personal preferences, slapped my own progression on it, and added a ton of notes to this entire thing. However, base POB obviously is Rutus. You're going to level starting with Peaconk, kind of whittling around. There are some options in that. I can show you them in a second. And then you're going to go into maps, still being Peaconk, heavily focusing on just getting XP, getting to level 80, getting your basic gear sets up, and then swapping into Ethereal Knives at some point, progressing that a little bit. There's some neat progression tricks in there. And then at some point, probably for most people, a few weeks down the line, you're going to reach the end of the guide, and then you can look further. As soon as you open the POB, I'm going to show you how this works. You end up in a phase 3 version, probably going to look something like this. Most important thing, whenever you look anything up, make sure you change your skill tree and your skills and your items to exactly the same phase. Other than that, it's not going to work. In terms of notes, they are pretty long, but at some point you're going to find, next to a bunch of commentary about everything, you're going to find the phases. So each of these phases that you find in like items or wherever has its own designated section that explains to you what I want you to do at that phase, how it is designed, with all the kind of commentary there, and I want you to walk essentially through them. Obviously, we start with leveling. For leveling, you have a bunch of different trees, or basically 2 different trees. You have an easy version. The main difference between the easy version and these leveling versions, which I technically recommend, is that on the easy version, we take a bunch of these life gain on hit notes. It's kind of overkill, but might be if you like not dying. You feel pretty surprisingly immortal with this, because every time you throw your flask, you heal up so much. So this is slower, but essentially a safer version. And if you go with the more recommended version, essentially it's just faster, and the main guide is also based on, you just skip that, and it takes a while, as basically until, I don't know, 40s or whatever levels here, until you get Clever Thief, and then you get your life regen there. Especially with Blood Rage, this can be really annoying. You can also leave out Blood Rage. There's notes about everything there. Just make sure you read the actual notes. Another very important thing for leveling is in the notes. It starts somewhere up here. I'm going to mule, even though I don't need any gems of that. I recommend you do the same. And I want you to decide if you want to do 1 to 12 with Galvanic Arrows, Battle Throw, Splitting Steel. There are progressions here for every single one of them, from the 1 to 12. And then at some point you start, or you use at level 12 specifically, you swap to Peaconk. That means everything after that is streamlined. The only difference might be that you have a little bit of a different tree based if you choose the easy version or the not so easy version, basically. But if you look at the easy here and the last leveling one there, they are very different. They're very much the same. They end up at the same spot, and then swapping into phase 1 is almost no difference. Swapping into phase 1 is still fine in terms of regrets. However, swapping to Peaconk, to Ethereal Knives at some point here requires a bunch of regrets. I think in total you need like 30-ish or something by level 80. Also keeping that in mind, you will be playing Peaconk until level 80 on a very basic gear set. Just get XP. It's not the best, but it's fast enough, and it progresses really nice from leveling to just map, get level 80. I love it. Not everybody does, fair warning here, and only at level 80 with a bunch of equipment and crafted gear, very easily crafted gear, you will be swapping into the actual build. If you hate that, then this is absolutely not for you. In terms of the different phases and some tricks with them, one more I would like to mention is right here in phase 1. If you change everything to phase 1, you have two options. You either can have Magi or not Magi. What does that mean? It is this wonderful node here. The Oath of the Magi node is the very first one. So I plan on going with this Warden dude here, speccing this one single node and cleaning out my helmet because it gives me 50 all res and it's going to make everything so much easier in terms of gearing until level 80. And as soon as I swap into EK, I will swap into this dude here, whatever that one is called. Is it called Primalist? I believe. I'm going to swap immediately into this and find some random charms. So I'm not going to progress any of this. I just want the first node. And if I understand correctly, then you just need to find the NPC once. And it makes resistance so much easier. If in case you don't do that, just use the no Magi thing here and you just need more resistance on that. Two more notes on things that are, I believe in terms of progression, very beautiful in here. In phase 1, essentially, if you have Magi, if you look at this, these are these items here, they are so easy to get. You only need to be resistance capped and have some life on your gear in phase 1. That's like fresh mapping. Just make it work, rush to 80. Essentially, if you have Magi, this is like a single resistance essence, this as well, and I believe there's a third one. That one is here, some movement speed, some life. Same here, there's a single dexterity essence. Here is a crafted resistance, here's a crafted resistance, and basically a single strength essence there to fix all your attributes. Reason why we want so many attributes is Dendrobate. Obviously, we want to hit 300 dex and 150 int. Before you have Dendrobate, you don't need to do that, obviously, right? We're not socketing our Peaconk into this. Do not do this. Peaconk goes into the Embalmer, which is very cheap. It also means Dendrobate is just a damage upgrade and you don't need it immediately, and especially not if you do not have the resistance to do it anyway. Starting with phase 2, essentially swapping to EK, we can really quickly do this here. That's where our tree respec happens. Again, in terms of resistance on gear, we have a bunch more uniques. It's all explained in the notes. But if you look closely here on these uniques, on these rare items here, they do not have a single point of resistance. The interesting stuff is if you have a Lyra and you essentially follow this guidance here with a Bismuth flask of 31 additional resistance minimum and having a little bit of charge recovery on it, you have 100% uptime on this flask and it covers your entire resistance even without any endurance charges effectively. So you basically need technically 0 resistance on gear, which is really cool for the swap, makes the gear very, very cheap in my opinion. Other than that, in the note section of how's it called, phase 2, you are going to find, it's hard to find in here, you find an entire section about attributes and how many you need. If you get an SNS Gentle Touch, that's the assumption here, that has 27 int or more, you're covered on int and you're covered on dex already. If you don't have the Azonath now yet, just press this until you have the Azonath and your int is covered. And the only thing you need on gear is 101 strength. And this is effectively designed. So if you get a heavy belt with perfect implicit, which is easy, like the 30 strength, you can just buy a base with that and use a Shrieking Essence, I believe, of strength here. And on top of that, you have any Ember Amulet with a perfect implicit. Again, you can buy a perfect implicit base or roll it with these weird orbs there. Then you're already covered with your attributes. On top of that, on the swap tree here, there are some floating attribute nodes, right? And these floating attributes nodes, what they do is they cover your attributes in a way, if I swap into the next trees, that they will never change again. You get some dex from a jewel later, but if you do this immediately here and make sure you have this, the Azonath with 27 int and you have your 101 easy to achieve strength, you never need to worry about attributes anymore. Really liking that, to be honest. I'm kind of proud how that entire thing works out. In terms of Flask in phase 2, we use a Bismuth for resistance capping. I think I already said that. We are still on Granite and Jade. Walking towards the phase 3 here in this entire thing, this just adds some stuff here. That's also where you change your bandit. So you would need to go into this configuration, change your bandit here. There's the change where we go like into mage blood at home kind of territory. That's where we use the free resistance flasks. We need to make sure they're absolutely 100% uptime. They cannot run out. If you follow like the gear, ideally then this is not going to happen. Taste of Hate also described there. You can replace this early. This might be a bit of an issue, but again, the gear here is rather easy to do. There's crafting sections for each of the pieces there. Starting with phase 3, they are typically free mod plus 1 craft. So easy. The typical easy thing is you get 1 fractured, and then you use like an essence or something to get guaranteed a second and roll for the third one, and then you craft something. Like this one is rather easy. Same here with the boots. We're also purely evasion based now. So spell suppression gear or spell suppression mods on pure evasion gear are way more common. It's way easier. These boots are also described. They're a bit overkill. You can go for an easier version earlier because you don't need a chance to avoid elements yet. Right? You only need it to be element immune later if you get an ancestral vision. But if you're crafting boots anyway, maybe you aim for the good ones. Same here, again, a free mod thing, even though this one is a bit difficult because of the 2 mods there. If you get 1, that's fine. And on the belt as well, free mod as well. And phase 4, to be honest, it only adds some corruptions there. Gear is still the same. And the main difference is that we are getting better gems and better jewels, and that includes our ancestral vision, maybe a really cool jewel, right? It's still a very cheap one, to be fair. We get a bunch of corruptions like on the leper's arm. And yeah, just make sure you read the notes. There's like so much about these each phases and what I try to achieve with them. I think the other difference here is, yeah, some awakened gems in there. And that basically then concludes the guide. Yeah, talked a lot about just read this, right? I'm not going to go over everything here. That's like a very extensive note section, and I'm pretty sure this is going to help you out. Also, the POB, you find it in a Google document in the description, so you don't need to check back on the video for update. The Google document has a changelog. You can see what version you have. You can check out in a changelog, hey, are there any changes to the version I have? Do I need to re-download that one? That being said, time's short. League start is very short, very soon, basically. And I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope you have an amazing time, whatever you play. League is looking good, and yeah, stay happy, right? Bye.